Hello. I watched a brilliant program yesterday of Matt Lucas talking about the 50 years of the Mr. Men. I thought it was done very well, and I loved all the old 70s music, Mr. Men songs, and the animation which Terry Ward was involved in. I used to love that. And you had to, because there was no video uh, in those days, you had to make sure you're there at the right time to watch it. So even if I was at the hospital, and Mum had to ask if they could turn the telly on to the right channel so I could see the Mr. Men. So I loved it. So I've got my Mr. Strong t-shirt on today. I love this t-shirt. I want to show you some of the other things that Roger has done, which the program didn't go into that area. But I thought I'll show you some of my collection. So I thought I'll do it live, as it makes it more spontaneous. So I'll have a go. Here we go. It will be not in order. This is Grandfather Clock by Roger. So as you can see, he did other Mr. Men, not just the ones on the back of the book. Also, he did different size, shapes, books. I'll just open it up. It's still a lovely. I love the way he does the countryside. And watching the Matt Lucas program and showing Kent with the hills and the hedges, and it does look like that. But of course, it's been made more colourful. So, and this is the Grandfather Clock. I always love the flower wallpaper and the flower chairs. It's very 70s. And this Mr. Man, he actually turns into a clock and teaches you the time. So it's quite a nice little book. So that's so you can tell you the time. He changes into a clock. So that's a Mr. Man you might not have seen before. Okay, I'll keep going. I'll just pick up random ones. So this is Mr. Happy. But as you can see, the cover is felt tip. Today's books are printed as a solid colour, the main Mr. Men, but they keep the insides as he had originally done it as felt tips. In the early days, they had this lovely, strong symbol, but later, of course, it had the different books to collect. So we'll go to the next one. Mr. Nosy is very, and if you get an early book, it's quite interesting because his green pen keeps running out. So this has been changed now in the new books. I'll see if I can get a page to show that. So you get quite a lot of texture where his pen's running out of it. I quite like that. And also, one of the good things about the Mr. Men was how a child thinks, oh, I could have a go at drawing that and get my felt tips out. And I think that's one of the big appeals to it, is that you can have a go and you learn quite a lot from copying for Mr. Men and doing your own thing. So you can see it's very faded. So you learn about drawing strong shapes and you learn about colour. So I think it's very good for children to learn how to draw from copying the Mr. Men. And as you can see, they become a lot more by then. But they're not in order of appearance at this stage. So let's see the next one. This is another earlier Mr. Men book. This is the first publisher, Fabia Books. So this is very early. So these Mr. Men were available at this time. And what was said in the documentary was quite interesting. That Roger thought that was it. That was the only Mr. Men he's going to do. But because of Terry Ward, he was doing the animation. He did one and showed it to the BBC, and the BBC said, "We like 13 episodes," and he went, "Oh, I've only done a few Mr. Men, and that was all I was going to do, and I was just going to do those, and that was it." But they wanted 13, so he had to quickly think up some more, and thankfully he thought up some very good ones. So I thought that was quite interesting in the documentary. This is Mr. Messy. So another easy Mr. Men for children to copy. And again, it's Fabia. It was quite funny when it was referring to these men who were changing Mr. Messy. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. It becomes a flop. Well, I think he's happy. But let's have a look at the next one. There's another early one, and this one. So this is Mr. Robinson, and Roger Hargreaves writes Mr. Small's book, of course. Yeah. Okay. Another thing I like about Mr. Men is the way the writing curls round. And I also like the shadow underneath the Mr. Men. Okay, we'll keep going. So these are the first lot. So after he did 5, he went to this amount, which were made into the animation. Oh, in this version of Mr. Silly, you get a picture which is not in the new published books. I like the early books because they're stapled, so you can open them wide. But easy to also the text is more thicker, easier to read. I think I like the earlier books because they're nostalgic. So let's go on. So he did The Little Misses in 1981. These are the first few. He had a slightly different style in the 80s. As a fan of his, I like his 70s work the best. But it's still good. But he seems to have a thinner pen. And he also does more cheeks and kind of eyebrow around the eyes more. It was good fun. In the earlier Little Misses, it had a Mr. Man on the cover as well. I think it was to show that this is a follow-on to the Mr. Man. And this is the original back of the books. So, as you can see, it's a slightly different art style, more thinner line. And there's another Mr. Greedy, seeing Little Miss Plump, which she changes her name later to Little Miss Greedy. Mr. Impossible introducing Little Miss Bossy. And Mr. Tickle. And Mr. Nosy helping Little Miss Magic advertise her book. Also in the 70s, he did a version of this type of book, kind of bubble writing, and he did different colours. And also it had a word search inside the book. So this one hasn't been done. When you collect these books, it's quite hard to find them without a word search being done. It encourages children to write on a book, I think. But anyway, some people collect these, so they're a bit more thinner. I still prefer be a white version, but anyway. Adam Hargreaves has done some really good work, and I think he's been great for the Mr. Men to carry on it from his father. I think he's been very good for the Mr. Men and Little Miss. This is a one of Mr. Chicky, which was created by Gemma. That was her version. She won the contest, and I wish this was a official Mr. Men book because I think it's very good, and I see myself as Mr. Cheeky. This is 30 years, so now we're doing the 50 years of Mr. Men. And also in France, they really love the Mr. Men and Little Miss, and they did their own books, which some of them got created into English as well. So this is before Mr. Perfect came. This was Monsieur. I can't speak French. On the back, it had some other Mr. Men, which we got Mr. Brave and Mr. Cheerful. So that came over, but we didn't get this one here, the accident one. So not all of them made it, and there was a Mr. No, which you can see up the top. Mr. No, and they had a Little Miss Wee. I was I didn't like his art style, but I've grown a bit more. It's not so bad. I think they did the best they could at the time. I just like Roger's work best, but I mean it's all fine. This is Mr. No, which didn't get translated in English. You can see the signature is moved to the side, and it doesn't say "Bye, Roger." So this is Little Miss Yes, or Little Miss Wee, which is another character that didn't make it. So it's quite interesting, but I just felt the art wasn't always good. I mean, it's fine, but I think Adam has definitely done a very good job and knew Mr. Men and Little Miss. I collected all the McDonald's toys, and I decorated my Christmas tree with them all, and that looks really good. I think Roger did some really good products because he was in advertising. He really worked hard in making his merchandise really good, and there was a bit of fault. As you can see, he always seems to forget to colour in things like Mr. Funny's nose there. If I open it up, I've opened this for a long time. I always remember the Mr. Men ruler. You get the Mr. Men rubber. I remember these envelopes. I think I used them to invite people to a birthday party when I was young. And there's lots of different things. There's a remember pad. I bought this recently on eBay because it brought back memories. Mr. Men pencil. So what else we got here? Okay, well, as you can see, he did a good job. But he did other books using the Mr. Men. So I think this book is to a bit more. I think it was to help children to learn to read more. So he liked to experiment with different shaped books, so he didn't just stay in the same format. So it's a bit different. This is Mr. Nobody, the original size of it. I thought he was going to be an official Mr. Men, but I think he's been think he's gone now, but I'm not sure. I'll have to check again. Now, this is what it looked like originally, this size. So you get the full over 2 pages, the drawings. I love this picture. He's brilliant at drawing these hills and trees, and flowers. That's really good. So there you are. So that's Mr. Nobody. And he's also done Albert, the alphabetical elephant. And you see a young girl wants to learn her ABC, and the elephant uses his trunk to do the alphabet, which is it's quite bizarre when he does I and J. His elephant his trunk comes apart. So he didn't just stick to the Mr. Men, he liked to try different things. So this is the Mr. Men counting book. And it's another one I had as a kid. You have things like you have to count the worms and how many ears, how many feet, how many flowers. So it was a good book. How many windows, and you could say to the child other things you could use it for. Yeah, so it's a good way to learn to count. I love these books. There's the landscape books. He did about 4 of these. These big stories. I wish he did more of these. So it can be quite. You get these amazing images over 2 pages. And they're good books as well, so I wish he did more of these. I love this one with the cliffs and the seaside and the hotel. So I just wish he did more of these, but it's good he did what he did. Got the Mr. Men cookbook, the logo. It looks like someone else has done the cooking drawings, but he's done the Mr. Men at the top. So you can have a Mr. Muddle melting moment. All the things you can cook, Mr. Small fairy cakes. This is one of my favourites. Another landscape book, Mr. Men Christmas. I love this one. Trying to guess which Mr. Man's sock belongs to who. Mr. Greedy's the large one. Mr. Small there. Mr. Topsy Turvy. It's just great the size. And you can see Mr. Jelly hiding underneath the tablecloth. So these are really good, these books. I love them. And we did Mr. Men Sports Day. Again, the landscapes. And, the tug of war. This one goes from this side all the way over to that side. So yeah, you have more freedom in these landscapes. I wish you did more. They're very, very good. A huge one. I wish these were reprinted. They're very good. Okay, I'll keep going. This is the Mr. Men annuals. This is the one I had as a child. I loved the moon craters. I think I remember trying to draw those. And they had stories where it didn't have any words. You could make up a story to go with it. This is Mr. Thing. You see, he didn't just do the Mr. Men. This is a really good book. A lot of fun doing this one. Look at this crazy stuff. He really didn't rest on his laurels and just drew Mr. Men. He liked to experiment. I love this picture. So it's a really weird book. He liked his cigars and his characters in the 70s, which we don't have now. Okay. And he came up with his book, Once Upon a Worm. This is a very strange book. Again, his tail can talk as well as the head. So he's talking to himself. It's done in his 80s art style. He's still very good. Again, get carried away with his scars. But, so that's worth getting hold of as well. This is the first Mr. Men annual, number 1. I love the double page spread he did. Always seem to have a pantomime at the back of the book in these annuals. It's the Snow White and the Mr. Men. This is the Mr. Men gift book. This is interesting because there's a story in here which I'll try and get. Mr. Happy's Day Out, and it's actually the story of Little Miss Sunshine. So it's Mr. Happy going to Glumland this time, and everyone is glum. So it's still a Little Miss Sunshine going to Miseryland, and this time it's a mayor rather than the king in the Little Miss Sunshine book, which Mr. Happy changes the land name. So it's quite, I like that, is it? So he had an idea and he's taken his story and made it into a Little Miss. So that's interesting. So we've got the Mr. Men counting. I think have we shown that one? Yeah, we've done that. Mr. Men ABC. Lots of fun, strong letters in the middle, and he's drawn lots of Mr. Men around it. I remember this as a child, Mr. Happy getting a kiss there. Mr. King, K for King. So it's a good book. All right. This is the newer books. I think there's even newer ones now. And that's what they're like. So Adam's redrawn them. So they're all uniformed on the back. This is my special book. I met Adam Hargreaves in W.H. Smith's, and he signed the book for me. He also sent me a colour drawing of the Mr. Men, and I managed to have a chat with him on the phone and found out that Roger was working on a tramp character to make into a comic strip for newspapers. So he was trying to find a way to break through. He worked for Richard Williams Studios, and he did the Ascot adverts, which if you type in Ascot advert 1980, you'll see an early version of Mr. Sneeze. But this Mr. Sneeze character, he's got kind of runny, more of a runny nose look. And Mr. Sneeze is now a triangle. So but you can see where he was starting to get the idea of Mr. Men's shapes. And that's interesting. So I recommend you look on YouTube for that. So this is a French ones again. Been around the world. Oh, here we are. So this is other books that Roger's done. I'm a roundie, you're a squarey. So it's like a Mr. Strong and Mr. Happy type. Roundies want to be happy, squaries want to be rich. So quite simple. Roundies know how to wink. Can you imagine a squarey winking? So it's a bit of an old book, but I remember as a child. Roundies are quiet, squaries are noisy. So, but they're a bit expensive to buy these ones now. I managed to get one. So it's kind of a don't be a square man. And this is another book series he did. John Mouse. I love these books. Again, there's an unusual shape to the Mr. Men shape. So they're even smaller for children. I wish he'd done more of these. I love John Mouse. But he did 5. He's tickling the little back of his foot. They're really worth getting these books. I recommend John Mouse. So lovely. It's a shame it didn't take off. But you can see Roger kept trying to try different things. There's more word books. So it's got the names of the characters written on them for children to learn. So that's Ice Cream, Cage. It's an educational Mr. Men book. Cowboys and Indians. And then you look back and try and find these words. So it's an educational book. So I've done another one of those. Quite fun, these double covers, wraparound covers. Creepy. Another double cover. Yeah, so they're very good to collect. There's another John Mouse book. I love the character. This is one that goes to Wormland. Goes to Worm School. Fun. So yeah, these little pajamas. And this is another one which they should have mentioned on the documentary, and that's the Timbuktu characters. And on the back is all the ones to collect. And Ronnie Colbert did a good narration animation in the 90s. It's on glossy paper, the Timbuktu books, so it gives it's a bit different to the Mr. Men. A bit more simpler the stories. But they're worth having a look. So there's Squawk. His nose, it's stuck on. Quack. sniff. More. So lots of them to collect. I haven't got more. This is Charlie Oink. So this is Timbuktu later on. And these are called the Easy Peasy People. And Gray Jolliffe has drawn them. But it's basically the Timbuktu stories redrawn. So it's a bit unusual why it was done. But there you are. We've got Mr. Bump Sunday. Oh, Saturday, sorry. This is the story time once again. So I think we're getting near the end. I'll just see if I think that's it. So, as you can see, Roger did lots of other book series and used Mr. Men and other type of books. I hope you've enjoyed seeing my book collection. That's what I mostly collect, other books. And I recommend you watch the Matt Lucas Channel 4 program, which was on Sunday at 6. It should be on the Channel 4 iPlayer type. Okay, thank you very much, and bye for now.